Greetings everyone. So today's video is going to be a bit different, because I'll be talking about something I don't normally talk about. Phones! Pretty much everyone watching this probably has one. However, I've been noticing an increasing issue as of late. Lack of future-proofing. For example, most Android phones have manufacturer update support for maybe 2 or 3 years if you're lucky. I know iPhones have a lot longer support, but well, we'll get into that later. But before I continue, let me explain what I do and don't upgrade as examples. I have this video camera you've probably seen in many videos. I use it for most of my plush videos, and it's been out since 2015, and I've used it nearly that long. This camcorder will also likely not be upgraded until either it breaks or I have a legitimate need for something better. Sure, the sensor isn't the greatest in the world and has a lot of noise, especially in low light conditions, but why would I need anything else? It does 1080p at 60 frames per second. Any frame rate increase can't really be uploaded to YouTube at this time, and I don't really care about 4K even all this time later. If I really wanted everyone to see every single fiber of the plush characters, I'd do this neat thing called zooming in. But finally, the biggest thing with this, and the general rule I'm trying to point out, is that I don't need anything more. Another example is my capture card, the AverMedia Live Gamer 2 Portable. What a fantastic name. However, I like this capture card. It suits what I need from it, and I'll probably continue using it for a long while still. I'm not capturing any 4K content here, and it does 1080p at 60 frames per second just fine. To be fair, the only reason I even use this capture card as opposed to my old one was because the old one is cursed and now just won't work. Thanks, Elgato! Oh, also there were a couple other capture cards in between, but we don't talk about those ones. So, why am I making this video? Well, I'm getting to that. The phone I currently have is working perfectly fine and suits my needs. And it has a headphone jack, no notch, and come to think of it, it has pretty much everything I want in a phone. They don't make them like they used to. However, my phone is going to stop receiving updates soon. Even though it's only been not even 2 years since I got it. This wouldn't have been a problem for me in the past, but that's also because I wasn't storing nearly as much potentially sensitive data on my phone, and we didn't have big security issues where if it isn't patched, your phone might collapse in on itself and spawn a black hole in its place. Okay, so that might be a bit of an exaggeration, but seriously, people need to update now more than ever. Since security issues for phones and computers have gone from extremely rare vulnerability where people need to click on notavirus.exe while connected to the internet and doing a handstand at 3 AM all while Frederick Fazbearrington's song plays in the background, to if you're in a popular Minecraft server, your calculator app might open, or ransomware might be downloaded onto your computer, that too. But again, I like this phone. And it's basically everything I want. The only thing it lacks is updates. But hey, that's okay. There's a popular custom ROM called Lineage OS, which was formerly known as CyanogenMod. They're well known for extending the lifespan of old phones with modern updates, and it looks like Lineage OS's long-term support for some phones is questionable at best. I get it, at the end of the day this is a community thing, but does it really help anyone if you get a couple months worth of extra updates? All I want is a phone that I buy once and doesn't have a bunch of garbage attached to it. That phone will get updates for a few years. Yes, years. As of right now, I have a phone I don't really need to upgrade, except for issues like lack of updates now, lack of app compatibility, which usually isn't too big of an issue, or some problem that prevents me from using it properly. I don't want to upgrade so I can get the latest and greatest Ultra 8K camera that can see individual bacteria. I don't want something with a 10K display with a 600,000 Hz refresh rate. In fact, that's one of the problems with new phones. They've really struck a point of diminishing returns with me. What's that? You want stuff like a headphone jack or an SD card slot? No, what we think you want is a notch or camera placed in the middle of your screen. Yeah, don't worry, thank us later. Ultimately, I want a phone that will get updates for a long time and have the few features I do want, or rather a lack of the removals that I don't want, since I hesitate to call a headphone jack a feature, and more like something that was once a requirement but now people removed it for some stupid reason. I might need your help with this, you guys, and if you have any recommendations, please feel free to let me know about them. Before I show all of you what I've found in my research, let me say what I want in a phone. 1. It has to have a headphone jack. I'm not paying extra for an attachment so that I can listen to media with wired headphones. Also, I really don't like wireless earbuds. Why do I have to charge my earbuds? 2. It shouldn't have a notch. I don't care if the notch is small or not. I'd prefer to just not have the screen real estate at all with it being taken up by a bezel, as opposed to having my screen basically just cut into. 'Cause yeah, that's always fun. 3. Definitely no pinhole cameras. I know this is sort of like the second point, but I still want to repeat it. Hey, what's worse than having a notch cut into your screen? How about a camera just placed in your screen entirely? Yeah, I still don't like this. Maybe this is because I'm the covered camera guy, but not only does that make it difficult, but to me the whole thing just adds to the creepiness factor. Oh yeah, and also my screen real estate is still gone! Who suggested some of these features anyway? Now, I'm not saying that people are spying on me through the camera or anything, but, yeah, something about it is just unsettling to me. Number 4, an SD card slot. Because I like easily expandable storage. Yeah, that's it. I just like the SD card slot. And finally, the real big one, and why I primarily made this video, number 5. Lots of updates. This doesn't mean 2 years or 3 years worth of updates. No, I'm talking bare minimum 4 years of updates. I expect to be getting updates for this still in 2026 or even 2027. I shouldn't have to worry about getting a new phone again until the middle to late part of the decade at the earliest. But hey, I did say I found some phones, but as you can probably guess by the fact that I'm even making this video, there are a couple issues with each one. So for starters, we have the Zenfone 8 and or 9 Flip. The only reason I'm saying or 9 is because I don't know when that one will be released. I don't want to buy the 8 only for the next gen one to immediately release right after that. However, if it will be announced, it will probably be sometime within the next few months. This series is known for its pretty good quality and having pretty much everything I want. Oh, wait, I just realized while researching this, it doesn't have a headphone jack on the Flip model. You know, the one without the notch. But that standard one, which I don't want, does. You know, the one with the punch hole camera. 'Cause yeah, that's fun. Why couldn't it be included on the Flip model? I have no clue. So, okay, aside from that, what's the catch? Well, assuming the 9th version is the same as its predecessors, it has everything I want except for that headphone jack issue, and no long-term update support. Yeah, if I get this phone, as much as I like it, I'll basically be in the same boat as before. Also, ASUS isn't very open about their update policy, whereas you just kinda stop receiving updates one day. So realistically, I'll receive updates for 2 or 3 years at most, and that's if I buy it right away. While this isn't awful, we can do way better. Next up is the Fairphone 4. Okay, SD card slot, good. It can be disassembled like you used to be able to easily do with old phones, which means you can swap out stuff like batteries. Also really good. But then, no headphone jack because reasons. And a camera notch because, I genuinely don't know why they put that there. Yeah, God forbid we have slightly more bezel, right guys? But hey, they have great update support, as they promised approximately 5 years worth of updates. Okay, very good. So, what's the catch? Well, I'm really not a fan of the lack of a headphone jack, or the notch, but the thing that may very well break it for me, you can buy it only in Europe. And due to some issues, depending on what carrier you use here in the US, the phone might just kind of not work. Yeah, I can check if it does, but until there's a US release, which I know for certain works, I'm basically taking a gamble here, and God forbid I switch carriers. Or what if I'm on a carrier where it doesn't work to begin with? I have a big problem with this company, honestly. I'd be a lot more willing to take this sort of risk if they didn't implement features that I don't like. Seriously, for supposedly trying to be different and not like the other smartphone manufacturers, they sure are really implementing the features that no one likes. The people who are trying to avoid the other smartphone manufacturers don't want more of the same. Yeah, having long update support is really important to me, but so is, a headphone jack. I'm not completely ruling this out, but Fairphone, if you're listening, maybe put in things that people who want modular phones would actually want, not more industry standard nonsense like a stupid Okay, I'm sorry, I'm fine. Let's move on. Well, let's talk about the king of Android phones, the best of the best, which comes from Google, which actually shouldn't be very surprising. Okay, so what have we got? Well, they have superb update support, with no less than 5 years worth of updates after launch. Okay, good. And on the latest models, there's no SD card slot, no headphone jack, and a punch hole camera. Well, we tried, I guess. Now, here's a phone whose manufacturer has a great reputation for fairly high quality products, as well as amazing update support. I mean, seriously, one of the phones that they still support came out in September of 2015. At this point, I wouldn't care if the next major release doesn't get ported onto that phone, since over 6 years of support is really good compared to most other phones. So, what's the catch? Well, it's Apple. So yeah, there's great support, but I'd also be losing things like the headphone jack, SD card support, and depending on which phone I get, there may also be a notch, which is just great. But hey, if I get the iPhone SE, there's an actual bezel. Have you guys gotten the fact that I don't really like the notch that much? Supposedly there's a new SE model rumored to be announced this year, but we'll have to wait and see. However, I get the feeling they won't magically add in micro SD card support, and the headphone jack isn't coming back anytime soon because it's Apple. And of course there's the obvious concern of it being iOS. For context, I've used an Android smartphone for years now. The switch to iOS would be difficult to say the least. That in tandem with all the other missing features, and I'm not so sure about this one. Finally, we have the Samsung A32 5G, a bit of a budget phone. However, Samsung has promised updates for a minimum of 4 years. Not quite what Apple has going, but still pretty good. But as we all know, there are catches. First of all, the notch is back, but you've heard enough about that. But the bigger deal is one I haven't even mentioned with most of the others. If this had been released even a couple years ago, this might have seemed mid-range back then. But now, this is a somewhat budget-range phone, which to be fair does explain its price. That's okay if I plan to use this for only a year or two, but for something I want to use for at least a few years, I don't know. OS upgrades in particular will slow down any older phone. Now, I'm not looking for something ultra high range, but at the same time, I'm trying to make sure that I have a phone that won't slow way down the moment the first upgrade is released. There's also the 4G model, which is actually an upgraded basically every single way, except it doesn't have the 5G thing, which, okay, honestly, I really don't care about. So, given my lack of options, I decided to look at GSM Arena to see what I could find there. Okay, released in the last year, since I don't want to get a phone that's more than halfway through its update life cycle or something. Needs to be Android because, let's face it, I'm not finding what I want from Apple. 4 gigs of RAM. This is, for all intents and purposes, the least you can get away with now. You might be able to get away with 3 gigabytes, but that'd be pushing it, even a couple years ago. Yes, SD card, because believe it or not, I want expandable storage. No notch or punch hole. And finally, a headphone jack. Now, okay, while I know these features aren't common anymore, they shouldn't be rare. So let's see how many phones I found. 9. I found 9 phones.
Squidward!
So let me reiterate this. Features that only 3 or so years ago were once borderline standard are now nearly extinct. Oh, and this doesn't include the updates either. Man, this is going to suck. But okay, let's see what we have here. We have what looks to be several Sony Xperia phones, fairly decent quality too. Okay, seems pretty good. But wait, what's Sony's update policy? Oh, 2 years. Yeah, Sony, way to really spoil us here. 2 whole years worth of updates. And that's from launch. So basically, every second I'm not buying the phone, that deadline is ticking closer. The X10III, do you pronounce it 3? Who knows? Is going to get updates until June 2023. Now look, I'm not mad that even the more consumer-oriented phones can do better, such as Samsung giving no less than 4 years, and Apple giving several years, but... Oh wait, yeah, I am mad. Well, I guess that rules out Sony, unless I have literally no other choice. Next, let's skip over to these Ulefone, whatever, phones. And nope, that doesn't look like it's happening either. Not only are they a Chinese company and I don't want to be spied on by the Chinese government, but more importantly, from what I can tell, they don't even receive updates. I don't mean like they don't receive them very often. From what I've found, they don't receive updates at all, maybe with the exception of installing a custom ROM. Well, those ones are out, so we're down to 2. Yes, 2 phones. Next we have the Cat S62. Yes, cat, but not as in cat like cheetah right here. No, instead it's like the ones who make all the construction equipment. Apparently they make phones too. While it's not the most high-tech thing ever, I wasn't ever really looking for that. But it has everything I want. So, what's the update policy? You know, how long will it receive even just security updates? Oh wait, we don't know! I looked pretty much everywhere and couldn't find a lick of info on this phone's update policy. So it could just as easily be a month as it could be several years. Well, okay, we're down to 1 phone. So, this phone has everything I want. Plus it's covered for 4 years because it's a Samsung phone. Okay, good. And it has a removable battery on top of everything else. Wow, I think I found it. This is just about perfect. So, where's the catch? Oh yeah, that's right. Small little catch, but I can only find it outside the US. Why? I have no clue. So the only way to get this nearly perfect phone for me is to import it and just sort of hope it works. Again, sure, there are ways to check if the phone will work on certain carrier frequencies, but at the end of the day, this is still a gamble. Why won't this be released in the US? Well, I might have some idea, actually, and it might explain all of these things that have been happening. Let's face it, Apple leads here in the US, and dominates my demographic in particular. 74% of people in my age bracket use iPhones, which... yeah, wow. Other companies see this and likely think, at least for here in the US and particularly for the younger demographic, that they need to get on board with what Apple is doing because that's the new trendy thing to do. Sure, they might mock some stupid decisions Apple makes at first, such as removing the headphone jack or bringing in the notch, but eventually they do it too. However, to me this makes no sense. Hey guys, if I wanted less features on my phone, I'd just use an iPhone. If I wanted some stupid notch and no headphone jack, again, I'd just use an iPhone. If I wanted to have those things because it was the new trendy thing, I would just use an iPhone. But I don't want those things. I'm tired of a bunch of manufacturers following in Apple's footsteps. Oh, except for the few consumer-friendly things that matter, of course. I give Apple a lot of crap for introducing a notch and removing the headphone jack, as well as jacking up the prices of phones. But I'll give credit where credit is due. At least they keep their phones supported for a long time. Again, they're still updating a phone from 2015 as of the time of writing this. That's nothing short of incredible in my eyes. Hey, Android phone manufacturers, if you're really wanting to copy Apple so bad, copy something like that. But haha, nope, can't be bothered. Maybe throw a year or two's worth of updates towards the peasants before you force them to upgrade again for a perfectly fine phone if they wish to receive what are at times vital security updates. The only things that Android phones still have on iPhones are price, the fact you can sideload apps, and sometimes you'll get an SD card slot. Sometimes. Which, even then, those are on shaky ground too, save for the SD card slot. Come on guys, this is just pathetic. If all this means that I have to go import a phone because manufacturers simply couldn't be bothered to list it here, maybe I should just switch to an iPhone. I sure won't be missing much, especially if I have to embrace the stupid notch and lack of headphone jack. Maybe I'll get an iPhone SE 3 when that's announced. I don't want to switch ecosystems, but if I'm going to get screwed over no matter what I do, I'd at least like to get a lot of updates in the process. I'd like to be able to own the same phone for years on end. Don't get me wrong, Apple is not free from sin. Far from it, as a matter of fact. But if my only option at this point seems like it will be getting screwed over with pointless features while removing the actual ones, I'd like to at least have it be in a fashion where I retain as much as possible and get something from it, like updates. In case I haven't really hammered home by now just how much I want long update support, let me say it again. Some people might see 2 or 3 years worth of updates as plenty, but honestly, no, at least not to me. To me, that feels less like a phone I can use for ages, and more like kicking the issue down the road a couple years. As I said, I don't want to even have to think about upgrading my phone for at least a few years once I get a new phone. But hey, knowing my luck, once I get an iPhone, they'll change their update policy. So, now that you've watched me complain, I have to ask a couple things. 1. Am I taking this too seriously? These things have been bothering me for years now, but it hasn't really been such a big deal until now, where I feel like what I want is literally being shoved out of the market because the popular kids don't do it anymore. 2. If you had to pick, especially given what I want, what would you guys say I should pick? Maybe I should wait around for the newer phones to come out later this year and see what I get. I know some people might be tempted to cling to brand loyalty here, with Android users calling me a heretic for even considering an iPhone, while iPhone users try to drag me into their camp. I'd prefer just an honest opinion for actual options. And in case I haven't made it clear what I want through this whole thing, headphone jack, no notch or punch hole, an SD card slot, and lots of updates. Though at this rate, I'm getting the feeling that I might have to compromise on one or more of those things. I'd like to say one final thing though. I hope this video has acted as a sort of reminder that pretty much all companies or corporations are not your friend. In my case, because they'll railroad you into the latest trend even if no one actually likes it. Remember that the headphone jack removal and notch were once made fun of. Did anyone ask for it? I don't think so, and certainly no one asked for the punch hole camera. Well, that's not to say all corporations are downright evil. These changes aren't things people actually asked for, but we're all being forced into it regardless. In any case, thank you all for watching, and take care.
Thank you.